I would push back on your born in the wrong era thing because, like, look at what you and I get to do for a living. And it's because we were born on the bleeding edge, right?
Yeah, it's just like revenge of the nerds type of vibes, you know, because it's like,
Yeah.
we always thought it was cool, and no one else, the majority didn't, and now everyone just goes, this is cool. Games are cool. Nerd culture is cool. Look at like how Marvel has such a massive impact on culture today. It didn't back when we were growing up. Like, comics were just, it was a subset. Welcome to Brands at Play, the podcast where we explore immersive marketing and the people who are leading it. I'm Nick Hill, co-founder and chief innovation officer at Sawhorse.
And I'm Albane Prioux, insights and partnership director at Geek.
This week on the show, Lancôme comes to Roblox. Fortnite is having a big moment for branded activations. Meta AR glasses 2.0, and Walmart goes big with transmedia on spatial.
Yeah, I'm really excited. So we have Pete Basgen that is going to join us on this episode. He's the global gaming and esport lead at Wavemaker, and he brings a ton of experiences from his background at X and also Twitch. So really looking forward to deep dive with him on that topic.
And we'll explore what really defines a gamer and why it's time for brands and agencies to rethink their strategies when connecting with this vibrant community.
Let's get into it.
Let's go. Albane, we're back for episode 4.
I know. How are you doing?
I'm well. How about yourself?
Another very busy week for me. What did you get up to this week?
This week, I got into a lot of stuff, always busy. I had an amazing opportunity to visit NBC Universal on the lot, and I attended the 2025 Partner Digital Slate presentation, which essentially is where they show all the new movies that are coming out in the year. And it's invite only for all the agencies that they're working with their marketing initiatives. They make you sign a crazy NDA, and they don't let you take any devices into the building.
I saw a photo of you on LinkedIn where you were like almost presenting the news. Was that what it was?
That was like a prop that they had there. So
Okay.
I just had to like do my photo op moment. But they totally shake you down on the way in. And like,
Really?
I have a lot going on. Like they were like, yo, iPhone,
No Meta
put it over
glasses.
here. Yeah. Apple Watch over here, Meta glasses over here. They're like, they just shook me down.
God.
I just rolled in
That-
there with like a notebook. It's like old school style.
That's so cool. I mean, obviously, I'm sure you can't then say what you saw or what you learned then, but that sounds really exciting. Anything that, we should be on the lookout for this year?
Yeah, you should be on the lookout for a lot of things. They have an amazing slate. They also talked about what was going on next year in 2026. I mean, amazing movies. I can't say anything other than that, but yeah, NBC Universal's gonna crush it this year.
You're always going to like really cool events, secrets. Now it's like, no, it's not even an AI event. It's like top secret NPC events. That's really exciting. So I kind of ruined what I had, which I went to Paris this week for a really cool event that Geek was hosting at Soho House. We had a webinar with Geek on Tuesday. So really deep diving into our report that we've done. So quite interesting. I think, Nick, you joined. What was really interesting, I don't know what you thought, but for me, it was really the data around like the rise of integration and maybe the shift towards more like campaign activation from brands. And then lastly, on Wednesday, not as fancy as you, but I was in Paris and Geek was throwing an event, and it was really amazing to see lots of brands there. Manon actually with Charles had a lovely like fireside chat where we learned more about their own strategy. So a really, really busy but very productive week.
Speaking for someone who's been to a few parties with the Geek team, I can attest to how awesome you guys are. That team is really fantastic, Charles and the rest of you guys. I always love an opportunity to grab a beer.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll have events coming to your side of town and more in the US soon. So we'll be able to do that in real life. Maybe we should do in real life podcast recording at some point. That could be cool.
Yep, at Sawhorse headquarters or one of these conferences.
Amazing. Yeah, I love that. I think that would be so fun.
Let us know in the chat.
Yeah, let us. Enough chit chats for us, Nick. Why don't we go to the news?
Go to the news.
My first story this week is Lancôme that recently launched their first rewarded playables on Roblox. This is a new type of activation that you can do on Roblox. What was really interesting is that the experiences was only for 18 plus. It's live for 4 weeks, I think, until the 20th of March. What was really exciting as well, and I think it really goes to testament of the evolution of the platform, is activation was for 18 plus only. And they already have over 280,000 visits on that activation. So a really cool new piece, I guess, of engagement that brands can do within Roblox. And they had 99% of approval rating. So really good. Did you get a chance to play?
Yeah, it looked cool. I didn't get a chance to check it out myself, but I was just curious, like, what can players do inside of it?
Essentially have a few like challenges and a few quests that you have to do with peers, and essentially that it unlocks free UGC. So there's 4 UGC that are released every week. As you and I know, Nick, free UGC is such a great way to essentially attract people on anything, any experiences. So really, really cool to see. But again, I think where I'm the most excited is the fact that there's such a high engagement for 18 plus, and goes to show that, again, the myth of Roblox being only for kids, actually, no, these are like 18 plus people that are engaging with the long-term activation. So really exciting to see.
Yeah, and the platform, apparently is aging up, and I think this is some evidence that supports that. My story, we can jump over to the other side on Fortnite. I really felt like Fortnite was having a moment this week and in general with activations. It's like every time I go on LinkedIn, there's another cool thing happening. So a few that I just wanted to highlight is the Cowboy Bebop partnership that came to the platform. And this seemed like it was directly with Epic. So it's just getting the IP infused in a very natural way. But I love that cel-shaded anime style, the way it appears on the platform. They do such a good job with that. Did you get a chance to see any of it?
I saw it on LinkedIn, but I didn't get to play it. But I agree with you, where I think I'm always so excited to see like the different types of design that you can have on Fortnite. So I did think it was really a really cool integration.
For sure. And then another one that popped up was from A24, the film company, for their new movie, Talk to Me. It's like a horror film. And they did an integration into Dead Pines, Zombie Survival. And then they partnered with Twitch streamers and on YouTube, and they kind of like streamed those out. And so really a way to kind of get way more engagement than what they're getting just on the Fortnite platform.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what's really interesting is that integration is also really increasing and popping off in terms of popularity on Fortnite. I'm not surprised that they went for that, especially when you're trying for a campaign in a really short moment, trying to engage with a really big audience. If you're not going to be on Battle Royale, you may as well do an integration with already an existing audience.
Funny you should mention that, because this week we just launched our Mickey 17 experience, which is so awesome. It's the first time we've done an integration on the platform. And this is with Warner Brothers. And we collaborated with Click, that agency, who are fantastic. And we integrated the Mickey 17 IP into this island, one of the biggest islands on the platform, minigame box PvP. I don't know. Have you seen that game?
I saw that you guys launched your own island as well, your own game, didn't you?
Yeah.
That I thought was unbelievable and was giving like GTA vibes. So I really loved it. I love, again, seeing the work that you guys are doing on Fortnite.
Thank you. I would just encourage people to go check out that Mickey 17 activation, just because it's in line with the lore of the film. And if you play it, you'll see, but it's a really fun activation. The last one I wanted to highlight is just DoorDash come to Fortnite with the glitch. They partnered with Amazon inside Fortnite with branded billboards, power-ups, and there's a big tournament that's featuring top snack brands.
For those of the people that are not in the US, can you explain what is DoorDash? Because we don't have DoorDash here.
Oh, you're missing out. A food delivery service that is all on mobile.
Like Deliveroo?
We don't have Deliveroo.
Oh, okay. So, okay.
Do you have Postmates?
No.
Well, we have basically Postmates and DoorDash. That's what you do out here.
No, we have Just Eat and we've got Deliveroo.
Just Eats and Deliveroo. Okay, everyone's got their own thing.
I see what it is. So tell me more about the activation. Sorry.
This is done by Wavemaker, who Pete is going to be on our show later. So through the company he's at, and it's kind of a shift from traditional ads to more interactive and more sort of integrated in-game experiences. And I think it's an indicator of how the food industry in general is trying to align themselves with gaming culture. We've seen this with other food brands, but what's your take on this?
I mean, we'll talk to Pete actually on this. I always love, I think, when there is an activation that links to in real life perks, purchases, things that are essentially things that you're doing inside the game has an impact into your experiences with the brand outside the game. It's really exciting to see, as you said, more the food retailers going inside the space, although they've been there for a really long time. I think the usual suspect of brands that were initially engaging with gamers and with games were like the food or the, like the fast food or the app.
Mountain Dew.
What's really interesting and what we'll talk to Pete about is, the rise of non-endemic brands now also engaging inside these spaces. So I loved, again, this activation, but there's definitely more to unpack.
And they've got a $20,000 prize pool for a gaming tournament, esports style, that's connected to this.
Are you gonna try to enter?
I would lose so quickly, so I won't be entering.
You showed your skill on the last episode. I think you're a better gamer than you allow yourself to believe.
I've never done any esports, but I need to give it a shot at some point. We'll see.
Yeah. So lastly, and I know we speak about Meta a lot, but they keep on, making the news and really releasing cool shit. Sorry, I can't say cool shit.
You can say cool shit. Approved. Let's say it.
But this week they released the new Aria Gen 2, so their new eyewear, so AR glasses. And so for now, and I'm really sad, but they're not for you and I, Nick. So they're only for researchers at the moment, but it's unbelievable. So if you have a chance, I would definitely recommend for you to go on the Meta website so you can see the full video that explains a little bit more like the intel of those glasses. But I do have a few points of, things that are really exciting. So first of all, there's a health tracking now on those glasses, so they can see your heart rate, so essentially, and see what you are seeing. So what is causing spike, and so maybe in your meeting, Nick, with your team, people like every time they see you, maybe they'll have like, oh my god, the boss is his. So their heart rate might go up.
I hope not.
And they'll know that you're the reason why. But there is really cool things that they're now doing. There's also enhanced audio, and on the video they were sharing, that's essentially there is also like an AI integrated within it, where you can essentially ask, where are the red onions in my Walmart, and it will scan what you're seeing and indicate where you can find them.
That's like the geospatial component, where it's reading your environment and it's reacting to it and it's providing you information. It's really interactive in that way.
I find it incredible. Every time I see what they're releasing, I just cannot believe that we're there. And also in such a small frame, you have so much computer power within them. So that was my hopefully we'll see more, I think, on Meta. But
yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I was definitely bummed when I first saw the article. I was like, oh, it's time for 2.0. Let me upgrade these glasses. But no, just for research purposes. But yeah, I think Meta is definitely leading the charge with AR technology, Orion, and everything else they have going on. I think the next generation of the Ray-Bans will have some additional simple AR integration, not like tracked into 3D space, but just floating over,
maybe,
right in front. I don't know if it's happening this year, but hopefully.
Yeah.
Up next, the last story that we'll talk about is Walmart. They had a really big moment this week, which I love to see, is they partnered with Unity and Spatial to launch Walmart Unlimited, which is like a transmedia animated gamified miniseries on the Spatial platform.
I mean, you know what? I think it's definitely an up and coming platform. And when I saw Walmart, I was blown away. I'm not gonna lie, and incredible storyline. I think I was just amazed of how they really took their brand and really told a story that was completely different and so unexpected. I was really not expecting that depth as well of storyline inside for brand activation inside Spatial. And I think the gameplay as well was so unique and completely different to what I saw initially on their platform. But have you had any experiences building or doing anything on Spatial yet on your side?
Yeah, we built for Tommy Hilfiger in the past, just like a
Yes.
3D environment that you can do some like simple interaction with. But this is way deeper, way more advanced, and much larger scope. And it's really touching on transmedia in a very interesting way. There's a lot of like animation and like storytelling that's coming through in that way. The animation was done by Martin Blueberry, that team. And the characters, a lot of the voices were kind of people from the Spatial community, but also like entrepreneurial suppliers for Walmart. So it's like a good collaboration. But what I really love about this is that like it's not crammed down your throat. Like when you go in, it's very much it's like brand storytelling in a very respectful way, where it's really looking at that story and that lore in that world, and then just like just working in brand elements seamlessly and organically and
Yep,
non-intrusively, which
I
was
agree.
really cool to see. And I got to give props to Justin Breton, who was
Yeah.
the executive behind that project, who has been leading the charge with ecom or vcom, virtual commerce, on these UGC gaming platforms. He was the first to do it on Roblox, first to do it on Zepeto, now first to do it on Spatial. So it's pretty impressive. What do
I
you
know.
think?
We'll tease at the end of this episode, but I think Justin and the Walmart team is doing such an incredible like work at paving the way that, users will be in the future. Now it's happening now, but are engaging with brands in these virtual environments. And I think discovering different product, really telling your brands in a completely different way. They also always had, I think, a big stance of involving the community of every single platform that they're in. So no, they're just doing such an amazing work on integrating so many different platforms. And I think another, I guess, topic that we can deep dive with Pete is seeing those brands going into not one platform, but really different platforms with different communities that they are targeted, engaging with in a meaningful way. So we're really seeing the transfer of like the same way as social media. You just don't have one Instagram account and that's it. You have X, you have TikTok, you've got Facebook, etc. And I think that's what's happening as well inside virtual worlds, where you have multiple platform activations.
For sure. And we talked about this a lot because it's a rad project. And to me, this kind of feels like a real-time review. What do you think?
It does. Yes. Let's go.
Real-time review. Boom. Okay, here we are. We are in Walmart Unlimited on Spatial. What do you think?
What a cool experience. I really love, it's actually quite buzzy. There's a few people. I am rocking, by the way, guys, if you can see this, but the L'Oreal Pro Hair.
Ooh,
that
fancy.
was a collection that they've launched last year. But look, I mean, your avatar is all right, I guess. But
you don't like this look?
Nowhere near as cool as mine.
I mean, that hair it's loud. I'll give you that. So this environment is amazing. The art fidelity is super cool.
So cool.
Not overly branded Walmart. It's subtle. And here we are. We're walking into a new space that's like a big theater, and they have a screen, and on the screen it's playing episode 1 or clips of episode 1 of the animation. What do you think about the animation quality?
Oh, completely agree with you. Where if you look around, I think the environment itself, it really is stunning. The art that they've decided to go with and the design of the series, I'm just obsessed. Like, this is something I haven't seen in a really long time, that style, and also coming from a brand, really blown away, because I feel like they could have gone, like very 3D and very like high fidelity quality. And I just love that they went more like an older, like BD.
Traditional.
Is that how you say it? Is it? Yeah, you comic.
Yeah, it's
no,
like
you say
2D
comic.
traditional animation.
Comic style.
It looks dope. Well,
Yeah.
let's keep exploring this space. Let's jump into the main lobby. You got your Walmart logo. And then we'll walk our way into, this looks like it's a shop or like a restaurant. There's a kitchen here.
It's a little hint to what we would do inside the game afterwards, looking for different ingredients. There's a few quests that you have inside the actual experience, and I think this is related to that.
And then also, like, we should note that there is some gamification right out the bat, which is a scavenger hunt for these Walmart Spark logos, which is pretty cool.
And look, I didn't realize he's here. Look at that. You can sit with the main character.
Yeah, so these are like NPCs
Nyla's
that you can interact with and kind of unpack the story. But I think the cool thing is, if you look at the walls, you notice all these products.
Yes, that's right. Yeah,
that are relevant to the story and the lore. And within this sort of kitchen, restaurant, shop area, you'll notice on the walls there's all these products. And if you go up to them, I think this is where the e-com comes in.
So cool. I'm so jealous that you can do this.
Yeah, partake. Chocolate chip cookies you can just add to cart and check out right here from Walmart. That's super dope.
That's so cool. I love it. I really love that. On my side, I think when you are in Europe, because obviously, sadly, guys, we do not have Walmart, but I think it's still really interesting. And it is still, I think the story on it is, so I almost feel like the e-com is a second layer to this, but the story or the experience, everything is completely worth it. Even if you don't have Walmart in your country, I think I would really recommend for people to go and see the lobby as well, because it is really, really interesting and really beautiful.
It is cool. And yeah, this is like, I would say, pretty seamless the way this is worked in.
Yes.
And not crammed down your throat, which is cool.
Yeah. Amazing. Should we start the story?
let's jump into the actual game.
Yeah,
Awesome.
let's do this.
It starts right with like an animated cutscene that is introducing our characters and showing this cool like city area, which is awesome.
Should we start a new game?
New game. That's what I did. So I'm in. This is like the transmedia part, which is basically you're just straight up watching the beginning of the episode, and it's an animated episode. They tell you about the story. We see these sick visuals. I love the animation style.
And I think what's really cool, Nick, is that you do have the integration of Walmart here and there. So one of the characters, she's on her iPad, and you can see that she is on the Walmart's e-com. And they just like, I think it's just already like telling you and attaching, you're already attaching yourself a little bit to the character because they're telling you a little bit more about the story. But it is done, I think, I want to say this again, it's like it is done in such a non-commercial, like, I think sometimes some of these like storyline can be a bit like cringe, but this is just brilliant. I feel like the story just carries itself out on its own.
Yeah, absolutely. This would like exist without Walmart, but Walmart's found a way to integrate into this unique story, which is pretty seamless.
Should we start exploring and go to the kitchen area?
Well, I think the first thing I noticed when I spawned into this game is that it's like a top-down, very unique style of game. Not what I'm used to from seeing on Spatial. Spatial, I'm used to seeing like these simple like 3D environments that are all kind of virtual, but this is like very much like a more traditional sort of like, it almost looks like 2D side scroller that's like from above angle.
I guess it's like the nostalgia of some of the games that I played when I was a bit younger. But again, like the visuals are really beautiful. So it really is done in a old comic style. And as you can like, essentially what's really cool is that you can start engaging with people within the story. And then there's like another clip or like the series and the story unveil itself. So it's cut with B-roll and really cool B-roll around it.
Yeah, it's like a good little balance between watching cutscenes and then playing as the character. And so then you get sent on a quest to go find all these ingredients that are on the rooftops of this awesome city. And it's cool. Like the art direction is sick. The graphics look cool. There's a lot of like graffiti influence as well that I'm picking up on. I think the concept is how to use your voice to impact your society, which is really cool. And every time you use the voice, it calls new buildings, like you're actually moving buildings.
You know what? That's so good that you clocked that. I was just like, this is sick. But you're right. It is using your voice to have an impact on your society. That's such a beautiful message. I was like, I died.
I jumped off a couple of roofs by accident.
I can't do two things at once. Sorry.
The one thing I have to do, I got to give props because this is like pretty fun to play. You know, you kind of like get lost in it.
Absolutely. I think if you are maybe a more purist gamer, I would say this is such a cool experience. And it really feels like a lot of the codes of gameplay have been taken into consideration. You are also fighting. I don't know. Have you guessed what they were? Those like little creatures that you're fighting? Yeah,
they're like these like spirits or there's something bad. And you use your voice to crush them. And that's pretty fun to do. And I'm collecting all these gems.
Because, I think there's always a question when you're a brand of like the brand safety and, not promoting violence. So again, it is such a good way to be able to make the fun, like the game and the gameplay really fun, while not having, pure violence and just your avatar fighting with their like hands and like combat.
And also I would just say like, this is a pretty vast game. Like as you start to get into it, this is not like a simple scavenger hunt. This is pretty deep. There's a lot of different places you can go and the map you can unlock more areas of the map. But also this is just episode 1 of 3. And there's 2 more episodes coming, like in the coming months. So it's big.
Really excited that this is not just one episode. Really interesting and really engaging. And I'm like really love what they've done here. This is really cool.
This is awesome. But let's jump back to the episode, chat through a bit more. Albane, that game is sick, right?
Unbelievable. Again, I think this is such a new and like incredible way. And it really goes to show what you can do inside virtual environments. And the type of story. And I think when we think about, entertainment and, how you can utilize those new pillars and gaming as a way to tell the story of your brand, this is such an incredible example. Now, I'm really excited for us to speak to Pete so that he can tell us a little bit more about, what he's doing at Wavemaker and essentially how they are integrating gaming as part of their brand's 360 strategy.
Let's go. Pete, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Quick congratulations on your recent activation with DoorDash into Fortnite.
It's a good one. Yeah. Gets bigger every year, battle of the brands. It's that super fun sort of crossover of influencer content, but also this year, especially this big Fortnite integration that we were working on with Twitch for a long, long time. It's all props to DoorDash because they're like that magical kind of client that's willing to take that risk on the cool new content.
That's the best kind of clients, the ones that are, not risk averse and down for, pushing the envelope. That's awesome. So yeah, let's jump in and start a little bit with your background. I think you mentioned that you are a gamer first and an agency person second. What's your background in gaming?
Let's see. First game was Ninja Turtles on the NES a million years ago when my older cousin handed me the controller. Basically, since I had the motor function and hand-eye coordination to make it work, always wanted to do it as a career growing up and into my, first few years out of school. Started my career as a sort of more general brand marketer at General Mills back in Minnesota. And then after being the kid that wouldn't shut up about how we should be, if we make pizza rolls and cereal, that we should be doing stuff with video games, had the opportunity to go work on the ads business at Twitch and haven't looked back since.
Yeah, and I think it's super helpful to have that background because I think a lot of people in the marketing world, not all of them have that gaming background. For a lot of them don't really understand the gaming space.
Yeah, it's changing over time, especially as we get, like more and more younger millennial and Gen Z folks get into the space professionally. Definitely changing so that like more and more people have at least a working knowledge of game culture, the dynamics of like who are the video game audience, how do you advertise to them, where can you actually do stuff in the space. So I would say it's changing, but yes, historically you're right on the money. There have been, I would say for the first 10 years of my career, it's very rare to be like the video game immersed person in a room full of like more traditional marketers who are thinking about more traditional channels.
And I would love to chat a second about Wavemaker in general for the listeners that don't quite understand the scope and scale of the company. Did some research and found that it's the second largest media agency network in the whole world. So it's big and they get gaming, they get much more beyond just gaming. But if you can give us some background on the agency, that'd be great.
Sure, yeah. Wavemaker is just one of the agency arms of Group M. I work for Wavemaker. I run our global gaming program here, based out of our HQ in London. I'm actually in San Francisco, but Group M itself and then Wavemaker are both global networks, like you said. So there's a Wavemaker office in pretty much every major advertising market, and same goes for Group M. My job especially has gotten very, very fun over this last year or so because I stepped into this global role. So whereas I was just working on US projects up until last year, now I get to work on building a Roblox activation for a client in Singapore and, making something in-game happen with a sports title for clients in Germany. And it's truly a global network. And now I get to work across the whole thing, which is a blast. So thousands of employees across the globe and more of them into gaming every single year.
The gaming audience is truly global. It's so far reaching that the fact that you can kind of oversee the global impact is really exciting. But I would love to get your point of view on how have you seen gaming and branded activations evolved over the past few years?
Well, I mean, the whole COVID era, post-COVID era thing has really dramatically changed it because everybody's paying attention now. It seemed like pre-2020 gaming was like a fun incremental ad on a lot of major media plans where, if you got lucky enough to have a media director or a head of marketing on something that thought, maybe we should talk to video gamers. Now it's like it's a must-have kind of pillar for many, many brands. I mean, we talked about DoorDash earlier, and obviously it's not a big mental leap to overlap like people who order DoorDash, people who play video games. Those are pretty complementary behaviors, especially in these last 5 years or so. You've seen every major non-endemic in the world kind of wake up and be like, oh, wait, if we want to sell stuff to people born after 1995, gaming is absolutely key. So we're doing really, really fun work with huge clients that, you don't think would natively touch gaming, or at least not immediately, like L'Oreal, huge constant gaming efforts across, a dozen plus brands all over the world. Danone, like we just built this really fun Roblox thing for their Danimals brand in the States last year. Bausch & Lomb, great clients at Bausch & Lomb making eye drops for people, a lot of dry eyes in the video gaming community. So yeah, I mean, like the big change really is that not only have the opportunities in the space gotten more diverse, but the roster of clients who are coming to us and saying like, what's our gaming strategy? You know, it went from a handful of key brands to everybody. Everybody is asking that question now, which is fantastic.
Yeah, it seems like every single vertical is trying to jump in and do something. I'm always, I guess I'm never surprised at what brand pops up on Roblox these days. You know, I'm like everything from like the financial sector.
The brand that made me realize like, oh, everybody's in the space now is when I saw when I saw Jake from State Farm show up in NBA 2K, it was like, car insurance, okay, all right, we're here. We really made it as an industry. So
yeah, I mean, one way to think about it is that if younger generations and younger audiences aren't spending their time on traditional media channels or less time on social and more time on gaming, if you want to reach them, if you're a brand that wants to reach them, you have to be in these spaces. So it doesn't really matter if your brand is necessarily relevant to the game. It's just from a actually reaching them perspective, it's mandatory.
absolutely.
What changes in consumer behavior or branded perception do you think have driven this evolution?
I mean, the obvious one is everybody's a gamer, or at least more and more people are a gamer these days. Especially, you know, we have all this data that says like something like 90% of Gen Z interacts with video games on a regular basis. So it's just that sort of like natural over time progression of you've got more and more gamers on the planet. Something like somewhere between 40 and 50% of every human being right now is a gamer, whether they self-identify as one or not. So it really just feels like a natural kind of like advancement of the culture, honestly, as younger people age up into these brackets where they actually have like, you know, disposable income, or they can be, they're a consumer that we want to talk to. These people play games, and they have been since they were little kids. I mean, we were the outliers coming up, right? It was a niche hobby. Now it's just an everything hobby, every person hobby. And my favorite thing about it is that like, we got sort of, I'm assuming your history here, Nick, but you know, I got pointed out as like, I was like a gamer was like part of my identity, right? Pete plays a lot of games. Now that's just kind of like a standard thing. It's not a weird like archetype of a person. It's just like, you know, it's a key hobby for so many people.
I know. I feel like we kind of grew up in the wrong era in that sense, because when we were coming up, it was like the smaller subset of kids, like the nerdier kids that were spending more time playing video games and into comics and Japanese animation. And I was shocked to find out recently that like Japanese animation is like mainstream and it's cool. Like, it was definitely not cool when I was coming up.
Oh yeah. I remember going to Suncoast Video and buying that Akira DVD when it came over. But I would push back on your born in the wrong era thing, because like, look at what you and I get to do for a living.
Right.
And it's because we were born on the bleeding edge, right? So
yeah, it's just like a Revenge of the Nerds type of vibes, you know, because it's like,
yeah,
we always thought it was cool, and no one else, or the majority didn't, and now everyone just goes, this is cool. Games are cool. Nerd culture is cool. Look at like how Marvel has such a massive impact on culture today. It didn't back when we were growing up. Like, comics were just, it was a subset.
True. But you play that X-Men intro theme from the cartoon in the 90s and people get hyped. So yeah.
No doubt. Who do you consider the modern gamer, and what misconceptions do you often encounter about this audience?
Modern gamer is a really, really, I mean, like, that's a great segue, because we were just talking about it. Everybody's a gamer. Honestly, like, I think about pretty much everybody under the age of 40 at this point as some level of activity as a gamer. If I put my media agency guy hat on, we do a good amount of segmentation. So it used to be as simple as, you know, casual, medium core, hardcore. Now we've got all this segmentation data about like what kind of moms, like what kind of gaming behaviors do moms exhibit, right? Tons, actually. So you can reach them. You know, like, what does co-play behavior look like, right? Parents who play with their kids versus parents who prefer to, you know, let their kids play their own games. And basically there's a gamer segment, I would say, for almost every part of society at this point. So I don't think about them as like gamer, non-gamer anymore. It's just about tactics and like where to reach somebody and how you can reach them through gaming, honestly.
Well, this is sort of a broad question about how agencies are sort of working on their strategies to embrace gaming. Obviously, more traditionally, they haven't been considering gaming at all. You know, they have their traditional channels and their traditional ways of getting their messages out and reaching consumers. From a broad perspective, how do you think the average brand is working gaming into their overall strategy?
Based on what I work on every day, I hope they're all doing it very individualized. There is no kind of one size fits all thing. It used to be, in the early days, you either signed some big overarching like IP partnership sponsorship thing that, and who knew how much value that was actually going to drive for you. Or, we've been in the era of mobile game ad networks for about 15 years now. So usually when I'm like leading a client into the space, like say a more traditional, like non-endemic client, when we're bringing them into gaming for the first time, usually we'll make a play with like mobile gaming video, because it feels more akin to more traditional digital advertising to a lot of, to clients and consumers. And that audience, or at least people that are playing games in that context, are much more open to sort of like generalized marketing messages, right? That's, I think, like moms playing Candy Crush on the train, going into the city are very open to kind of almost any brand. Whereas if you're going to be like doing in-game product placement or something like that, your brand has to be a fit, and you have to make sure there's a match there. Gaming has to be tailored as an approach to every different brand identity and what they're trying to achieve. And there are some common starting points, but we really look at it as like a completely tailored thing.
That's definitely my experience as well. It's hard to just say, this is how you activate like everybody else. Like there's no real blueprint. I mean, there's some sort of things that you can do at scale, but the best activations that I've seen are the ones that are so relevant to the users, and they're custom.
Totally. I mean, and that's true of the broader gaming space, and it's also true of individual like platform spaces too. Because I mean, there was a weird little era there where like every brand was like, I guess we got to build a Roblox world. And now you've got all these ghost towns of like branded empty spaces that there's nobody, there's one or two people on, if that. And you and I know that like that's not the correct approach. It was an early kind of gold rush thing, but now there's all these other options that are much more effective. They just take a little bit more thinking about how does the brand fit into them, who's the right partner, and what kind of value can we drive for players in order to, win their hearts and minds. With those specific tactics.
Great segue question. So you mentioned the ghost towns. Every brand wanted to come in and say, yep, I want my brand world on Roblox. And we kind of found that doesn't work. So you have this concept of, this always on or persistency of constant updates in order to engage audiences. Mm-hmm. What is your take on brands, and should they be like doing an always on approach with gaming? Or should they be looking at it as more specific activations at specific times? I know it's different from brand to brand, but what is your high level take on it?
To my earlier answer, it's brand specific and like specific to what each client's trying to achieve. The answer is kind of yes. It just depends on who you are and what you're trying to do. So for some brands, I think it makes perfect sense to focus on like a couple big tent poles throughout the year and just like really go big, make a splash. I'm thinking about like our entertainment clients, like when Paramount's launching a big movie, right? We'll go really, really big and focus on a big tent pole for some of them. But then there are properties like, Sonic the Hedgehog, where they are uniquely beloved by the gaming community and a lot of different touch points. And that, I think, warrants an always on strategy where you're programming pretty consistent smaller beats throughout the year. So honestly, I mean, the answer is both potentially. Just depends on how much budget you have and where your sort of positions in the minds of gamers and what you're trying to accomplish in the space.
If brands are doing this more always on approach, and they have to constantly be understanding the different game platforms, the different communities, and having a take on what they're doing, how important is it to have somebody on those marketing teams that is a gamer?
Helps. It's a big help. Yeah. Especially just in terms of like shortening timelines and making sure the content is like bold enough to really, as well as I do, that you can't just you can't be half leaned out with the gaming audience. You have to really commit. Otherwise, they'll sniff out your sort of half-heartedness, I would say. Nobody's more ad savvy as an audience than the gaming audience. So having somebody who is innately a gamer on a client team makes my day not only easy, but awesome, because it's like you're pitching a big idea and it sort of doesn't just grease the wheels. It like, you can skip whole steps of the process for like, here's the audience and why. You are the audience and you know why innately. So let's do this big, cool thing, right? Let's talk about this big idea with this big IP, or building this really cool involved thing for the gaming audience that you are a part of, right? So you get to be you get to be making the thing for yourself, which is a lot of fun. Like the funny part is like I'm kind of talking about myself here because when I was client side way back in the day, I was really just pushing to see if I could get budget to like build stuff that I wanted to interact with. So yeah, I mean, it's nice to have more examples of that. And I see more and more of those clients every single year.
Yeah. And I think, as we mentioned, younger people identify as gamers. They grow up around it. So, as time goes on, I think you're naturally going to see more marketing teams and marketing members and executives who grew up as gamers. So they're just going to get it, whether they're hardcore or not. They're going to understand it. What is your take on how impactful and how big this industry, like marketing inside of gaming, will be in the future? Are you fully leaned in?
I'm literally watching the clock on GTA 6. That's what I'm doing, because I think that that's going to be, I mean, we already have all these numbers, all this data that says that the gaming industry as a sort of revenue generator is bigger than music and movies combined. People love anecdotes, and I feel like it's a big punchy anecdote that we need to wake everybody up to the fact that like gaming is dominant in pop culture. We saw a Mario movie make over $1 billion in a month last year. You're going to see the same thing, I bet, with Minecraft this year, but it's really GTA 6, that like once in a generation kind of like thing that comes out and really punches everybody in the face and says like gaming is, it's not just a big hobby now. It's the dominant media pillar on the planet.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. So if we look at like the current marketing campaigns that most brands are doing, not all of them involve gaming. So like how can brands effectively integrate gaming into their like 360 marketing across paid, owned, and earned channels?
I'm going to speak outside of my own self-interest here, but not every campaign needs a gaming component. The message that they're trying to deliver doesn't really jive with the gaming audience, or, you're specifically targeting those few segments of folks that we know don't play games on a regular basis or don't really like get a lot of value out of gaming. Gaming doesn't always have to be a thing, but when you're sort of, and I guess you're sort of asking like, how does gaming function as an incremental or like one piece of a larger pie, I would say. Again, totally depends on what we're trying to accomplish here. Gaming is tricky because, these audiences are so hyper engaged in this specific vertical. It's very hard to just kind of sprinkle it on top like you would with like radio, for example, right? Where if you're doing a bigger campaign, you can kind of just amplify it or keep it top of mind with something that's like very leaned out and passive. But I know we talked about mobile gaming a little bit. We do a lot of work in the mobile video space because there's just so many eyeballs and thumbs on that space every single day, all day long. But I mean, like, I don't want to point to Paramount over and over again, but I think they're a great example of a client who, because they're an entertainment brand, they understand that they can take that cross-pollinated space of like gaming and movies or TV and just sort of mix and match in terms of like building something in an immersive space that makes it clear how fun the movie is and back and forth and back and forth. But it's like, yeah, taking pieces of the campaign, or at least like tying the creative thread at the center of it out to a gaming piece, just like you would with an entertainment piece or an experiential piece. It's the same kind of thinking. It requires a little bit more. It requires somebody like me to have specific expertise in the space and know all the opportunities.
Now, here's a question that I don't think we all have the answer to yet. How do you quantify the value, and how do we benchmark that to other forms of media advertising, which are a lot older and have proven methods of tallying up all of that value? How do you do that in the gaming space?
It's a conversation I'm having a lot recently. Depends on the platform, depends on what you're activating. But yeah, we are in that spot in the industry right now where it's like, okay, we know you're big, now prove the value, right? Like put a number on it, prove it. The ROAS era of gaming is upon us, basically. Yeah, and it's easier to do in some places because like in innately shoppable places, which there are more and more of, hopefully, then you can really point to like, hey, did we drive a lot of transactions through this channel, that kind of thing, right? But we're still in the very early end of that. I mean, you saw certain sort of Roblox experiences where you could buy movie tickets like to that movie without ever leaving Roblox, or the Shopify integration that they've done where you can buy merch and items directly on the experience. We're going to see more and more and more of that over time. Same thing goes with shoppable Twitch streams because they plug directly into your Amazon account. Makes all the sense in the world. And gamers are shoppers. I mean, anybody that spent a lot of time playing video games is used to spending gold on upgrading their gear or buying in-game items. So like that shopping behavior is not foreign to the gaming audience, but there's a lot of like, at least trying to measure transactions. There's a lot of development work we still need to do in terms of making that sort of a smooth experience that doesn't derail the larger gaming thing that, players are trying to get done. Measurability wise, I mean, we're now in the era where basically if I'm doing a big campaign with a partner, a brand lift study kind of thing that's sort of default at this point, right? We need to be able to measure sentiment and get some real deep sort of direct insights, conversational insights from folks that interacted with our campaign. It's the really, really like performance heavy ROAS, like how, I spent $1, did I make $2 kind of data that we're still working hard to establish in the space. And I think this is going to be a big year for that on that front. Somebody's going to figure it out for us, or we're going to figure it out internally. In collaboration with some partners, pretty dramatically here over the next, I hope 12 months. But I'll shout out a partner, Metalytics, for example. They're a partner we just started working with at Group M. They make a whole tech layer that works on basically any immersive experience where you can like heat map exactly where players are looking. And so when you deploy a branded piece inside of a larger experience, we can now point to it and say, hey, like, was this effective? Were we catching eyeballs? Were people spending time interacting with us? Or did they just run past on their way to redeem a free piece of UGC or something like that? So it's a tech problem, and it's an investment problem, but it feels like it's getting worked out. But we're still in the thick of it.
Yeah, definitely a huge demand from all sides to get that value.
Yes.
And help that quantify that value just so that it can justify all of these budgets and, green light all of this work. So I know that's top of mind.
Yep. Yeah.
But just from a high level, like looking back, like what are some of the most successful gaming activations or campaigns that you've seen?
Do you want my examples that I've worked on, or do you want just general example? I mean, I'm super, super proud of the work that we've done this year with our clients at L'Oreal and EAFC, like integrating directly. EA has made huge leaps in the last couple of years in terms of how much the FC game especially feels like an actual connected media server driven opportunity for brands. And that makes all the sense in the world because it's sort of a digital extension of this advertising friendly environment in the real world that soccer fans are, this is me with my global hat on. Soccer fans are super used to seeing LED ad boards around the sides of the soccer field, like the pitch. So doing that in game makes all the sense in the world. You've got billions of eyeballs on that game every single year. And so this past year, this FC25, the latest edition of the game that's in the market right now, was a huge opportunity for us to test on a regional level with L'Oreal brands. So we've got a number of different brands in there, and it's we're massively over delivering even on what EA and our friends at Sport5 promised us. So super, super proud of those really successful tests. I mentioned it in passing earlier, but we deployed what I think is a best in class example of a brand owned experience for our clients at Danone and the Danimals kids yogurt brand last year. We spent a lot of time building and thinking on that thing about how to keep it from being a ghost town, how to keep kids coming back. We built this great sort of cadenced content structure for it that had new UGC items, new quests every week, and then every month, all summer long, we dropped a new whole world to experience with like a whole new biome, basically like a new zone to check out, and it drove crazy value for the clients there, and we got a lot of eyeballs in a very concentrated period of time, and brought a lot of fun for kids over summer break, which was great. Not my work, not my team's work, not Group M work, but I love the partnership between Chipotle and the folks over at Evo. Props to them for having that partnership's going on year 3, I think now, and props to everybody involved for understanding that like fighting game community is one of the most hyper engaged fan bases in, sub communities in gaming, and taking a brand that was a natural fit like Chipotle, building content with the biggest names in the fighting game content creation space, and then going all in, like we said earlier, like really leaning into the space and committing to investing in it as a brand, has driven insane positive feedback from that community. I go to Evo every year. It's my favorite esports event. And to sit in the big like grand finals arena with tens of thousands of people chanting Chipotle and like screaming along whenever the ad comes up on screen between fights, it's incredible to see it in action. So I mean, next Evo in August, watch social. Everybody that goes to Evo and gets out of pools holds up their little free burrito card, and it's like become this like fighting game endemic trophy that you're good at fighting games to win a free burrito.
Yeah, I'm super impressed with Chipotle across the board. Like most of the activations they do on other platforms as well, are kind of novel. They like to push the envelope. That's awesome. Great example. So just moving on to the last question here. What advice would you give to marketing teams that say have no background in gaming, nobody on their team is a gamer, and they know they have to be here? What do you tell them?
Call me. Or, work with your agency. I mean, any if you've got a good media agency, then they've got it. The space is advanced for it. They've probably got a gaming person, somebody like me who is knowledgeable about the space, building opportunities. If they're good at their job, they're building opportunities for you, and they're excited to bring your brand into the space. So if you're working with a media agency, reach out to your client, whoever your client service person is, and ask for their gaming guy, gaming girl, gaming person. And if they tell you we don't have one of those, then find a new media agency, honestly, because your agency is behind the times.
Well, Pete, again, thank you so much for joining the show. We really appreciate your insights, and we're excited to see what you guys at Wavemaker continue to bring to market.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Excited to work with you and a lot of other folks in the space this year. It's going to be a big one.
Let's go. We'll see you soon.
Cheers.
That was such a good interview. I'm so glad that Pete was able to join us today on this episode. I thought, first of all, his background is so incredible. I think he's been in the industry for so long and has a wealth of experience around, and like a wealth of experience, but also, I guess, have seen the evolution of brands going inside gaming. And I'm so glad that we were able to have him join the podcast today. I thought it was really interesting, again, like how they are looking at gaming and how they're seamlessly starting to integrate this as part of their brand general like marketing mix. What did you think, Nick?
Yeah, I mean, clearly Pete has a ton of experience and he's a master at this. And I just want to highlight the fact that Wavemaker is a very large agency and they've done a ton of traditional stuff, but they're a great example of an agency who gets it and leaning hard into gaming and doing a very good job at it. I think there's a lot of very large traditional agencies that are slowly getting into it, and there's a learning curve there, and they're all seeing the challenges in real time. But it's inspiring to see what Wavemaker is doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it takes like in brands, actually, it takes that like internal champion that is a gamer at heart. And I think Pete had said it in the episode. He's not an agency guy that became aware of gaming. He's at a core a gamer that is now in an agency. And I think that's how you should really start when you are an agency or when you are a brand. Identify those champions that are going to really be able to like lead the way. It doesn't matter what department they're in right now, but really understanding and having that sensitivity around the culture of gaming is what's going to make your offering and your services and the way that your brand is integrated within the spaces even more impactful.
Yeah, and that just goes back to that concept of authenticity. You cannot go into these gaming environments and show up in a way that doesn't resonate with the people that are there. You have to understand it. Pete's a guy that gets it. That was awesome. Let's jump in and talk about what is played out this week.
What is played out this week? I'm going to start. So on my side, I think a bit controversial, but I would say what's played out for me is brands that think that they've done gaming because they've done an esport activation. And I think what we've learned today is that really gaming has well, gamers in general are multifaceted. So I think just putting into the category of like gamers are only esport, people that watch esport or play competitive esport, I think is just limiting the opportunities and the type of people that are gamers. So that for me is my played out this week. What is yours, Nick?
My played out is just something that's been well known and in the gaming community is just like toxicity. You know, it's where there's negative energy and bullying and sexism and all this bullshit. It's been like a problem, and it's not only in gaming communities, but it's also in gaming companies. There's been certain companies that have been exposed for having this sort of toxic culture. I think that shit is played out. And I think one thing to keep in mind is that if you look at who the demographics are for gamers, it's everybody.
Yeah.
It's all of us. Everyone is playing and experiencing these things. So I don't have any tolerance for it. We don't tolerate it in our company. And I just think that in general, like, I don't want to have to hear about like, oh, there's toxic stuff around this gaming stuff. Like, it needs to go away. It's played out. And I think that, you know, just from a high level, just everyone should be inclusive and they should be nice. That's it.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Preach to that.
Well, that's our episode. Everyone, thank you for tuning in. Big shout out to Pete Basgen for coming on the show from Wavemaker. And thanks to all the listeners for tuning in. So please subscribe, leave a review, and join the conversation with #BrandsInPlay. And Albane, you know, this is where, street justice comes into play. You lost last week on Synth Riders. And so you need to read out the credits, the disclaimer, all the BS.
All of it. Well, let's get into it.
One eternity later.
Okay, so the show co-hosted by myself, Albane, Prioux, and Nick Hill. And I already apologize to our team. I will say their name in a French accent. So if I butcher your name, well, don't let me read the credit ever again. So our show was produced by Edward Regu, our creative direction by Joey Jetter and Havid Kazim, our audio engineering by Zamrun Kio. Special thanks to Christian James Osheski. Be sure to join us every week for brand new episodes.
Disclaimer: the views, thoughts, and opinion expressed in this podcast are solely those of hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views, policies, or positions of host employers. The information shared during this podcast is based on personal experience and publicly available information and is intended for information purposes only. Any references to specific platforms, companies, and partnership are made in a personal capacity and do not imply endorsement, partnership, or official association with any organization mentioned.